Do you have something you wish you could say to a former version of yourself about giving yourself the grace to grow and become better every day than you were the day before?
I guess that one is for me.
Sure, either. You can answer that question.
Oh yeah, I try to just like bless my younger self more and more. Like, oh, bless her. Oh, look at, she was trying. I think we say this a lot, but like you don't know what you don't know, and I think one of the other things, like, sure, that was a moment that moved me in a really important way towards seeing my queer siblings more wholly, but it also really shaped me in how I do theology. Like I really, really determined in that moment, and then like in my seminary path after that, to be someone who forms theology in human relationships. Like to not just be, I love books, I love reading, I love all of it. I love sitting with a text, I love obsessing about it and walking around thinking about it when no one else is thinking about it. But what I really love is like pulling these texts through the stories of my life. Like that is where they really like come alive and stay fresh for me. So I think, there's this part of me that would just be like, oh, that was just taking shape there. And that's wonderful. Like I was open, and I bless that younger self. I'm proud of her.
I think, I'm quite critical of myself in a good way. Like I like to look at my work, and I like to refine things, and I like to get better at it. But I think as I've grown and matured and gotten older, I think I've tried to teach myself to have as much grace for my past self as I have for the people around me. Like I've been doing this job for 20 years. I think I'm actually pretty good at holding a lot of grace for people I work with and for people here in this community. I hope that I'm learning how to have that for myself as well. Like I look back, and I like what Bobby said. Like I was doing my best then, and I was making mistakes, and I was failing my way through things. But I try to look back at that past version of Jeremy and say, okay, he was learning, he was growing, he was moving forward. And those mistakes have become part of how I see the world now. If I had made all the right choices then, I don't know if I would end up in the same place now. Sometimes I think, though, my younger self would say to my older self is just keep holding everything with an open hand, because I could go back to the old self and say, oh, you made all these mistakes and that's okay and there's grace for you. And I think that younger self would say, well, that's great, but also in the future, just have some humility as well, because you're probably not going to stay there either. And you're probably going to be a different person 10 years down the road in that future as well. So probably both of myself would have that conversation and say, oh, it's some grace for you there, and keep holding things with an open hand in the future, because life keeps changing.
How do we support those who feel deserted by the church? / how do we, as a faith community, shine a light on the current social justice issues that surround the church?
What do you got, Jer?
Well, I think in terms of those who feel like they've been abandoned or discarded by the church, I think sometimes you just need to give people space to feel those things and to go through those things, and not to pressure them to say, hey, but my church is different and you need to come back to this one because it won't do those things to you. Sometimes it's just really important for people to have the space to grieve and to step away from experiences that have been unhelpful or toxic in their journey. And so you can be a friend to them and represent something different without also feeling like you need to drag them back immediately. Again, I've been a pastor for 20 years, and sometimes it takes a long time for people to come back around. But in that time, I've seen so many people step away and have space and then come back. Like, it's part of what it is to be a pastor, is you're in somebody's life for a season, and then you're not, and then you are again. And there's a beauty to that. So allowing all that to happen. In terms of the social justice part of church, I think what I want to focus on is where can we in this particular community find spaces where we can make tangible differences in the world. And I think there's a place for, to have those outsized influences and to create movements and to call massive, groups of people to change. All of that is really good, and we need that. But for me, at least in my career, in my life, what I've tried to do is where can I, in part of the community that I'm in right now, make a tangible difference in some situation right now. So how can we raise money to make a difference? How can we impact a situation in the city? And it might be small, and it's not going to change the world. And I've made peace with the fact that I'm not going to be that person who changes the world and goes down in history. But I am not okay with not stepping up to the plate in those small moments where because Commons Church is not a small thing either. We're a large community with a lot of resources. But where are we going to use those to make real differences in the world? And I'm really proud of this community, the way that we do that. But as all of us together, we need to start saying, oh, well, what about this one? And how can we do this? And how do we discern that together to make real differences in the world, even in small ways?
Wow, great. I was just thinking about, I was both following what you were saying and then thinking about what a privilege it can be when you get to hear someone's very real reason for turning away from a thing that feels still really important to you. Like if you get to actually hear someone say, this is what broke my heart about being at church, like you're in on holy ground when you get to hear that very true, real story. And my goal in those moments is to somehow like sit at the feet of that, to pay attention to what's really sacred about what is being shared, about why someone's heart got broken. And the rest of that is grace, for sure. And I think in terms of social justice, it's sort of one of my values to like step towards whatever I can actually step toward. So again, sometimes it is just that like listening ear, but I knew about a friend's need this week and was like, you know what, Jonathan, we can do something about this. And we were like, let's pile some resources. We stepped toward it. So that's just a bit of a little value I live by. Step towards what you can. Do it as a community, do it as individuals. But man, when we do it as a community, it really does, like, it really blows it up in a beautiful way.
Hey, thanks for watching through. If you are intrigued by the work that we're doing here at Commons, then by all means, give us a like, throw a comment down below, and subscribe here so you can stay up to date on all of the content that we're posting here on YouTube. We'd also love to invite you to join our Discord. You can do that in the link down below. There's all kinds of conversations that we're inviting in and through the community as we do our best to follow Jesus together. Of course, you can find more about Commons at commons.church and following at Commons Church on all the socials. Thanks for being here.